You shouldn't be wearing that. And in their mind, they hate al-amr bil-ma'ruf because we have distorted it. We have made it an action that we tell people off. It's almost like telling people off. Even if people who've gone to Hajj, and there's Hayat al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa Nahi an al-Munkar, this committee for al-Amr wa Nahi an al-Munkar, they've given themselves a bad name, to the point that what's taking place in Saudi partly is due to the way that they have presented themselves in the past. I lived in Saudi and I remember them coming with sticks and hitting people and telling them, don't wear this, cover your face, do that. And that is not the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us or has ordered us to do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. In actual fact, it just gives you a negative image, and it makes you, go the other way. And I've seen many people, by the way, just leave their faith. They had a bit of goodness in them, and because of the situations that they have been in, they decided, you know what, I don't want any of this. And we push them to the point that they leave the pulpit so no one can talk about them. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous that we, with our good intentions, trying to advise them, push them away from us. And maybe push them to a point that there's no coming back. And then we will be responsible for that has happened. And first of all, you go see the priorities of whatever you feel that you need to invite to goodness, or order goodness, or forbid evil. You have to know it has to be clear. You have to see the positive ways that you can implement your plan. You've got to have a little plan, and it might be little. So, for example, with my child is choosing to do something bad. Even in that situation, I can choose that approach, but it's not going to last. The child is going to grow up and they're going to do what they want. And you will have nothing to say. Maybe you can control them while they're young, but you don't know what's happening in the background. But having a plan where it invites them, it encourages them to join into goodness, and where it grows into them the hate for evil. And that happens in a gradual manner that can make those results and those achievements permanent ones. So it's not just going to happen in this hour and then behind your back it's going to turn against you. And maybe this al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar is take years of your life. So you don't imagine instant results. So for example, all the content on media should include amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. Even in producing our work and documentaries and talk, part of this is al-amr bil ma'ruf, is inviting to goodness. Goodness, by the way, is even our faith, Islam. We believe that Islam holds a lot of and holds all goodness in that. And we believe that the message of inviting to Islam is the ultimate message. But under that invitation comes many more little steps and wider society. So you might think, how am I going to invite a non-Muslim to do good? You might think of, am I going to say, hey, become a Muslim? I think you should become a Muslim. And if you said that, would it ever bring would it achieve anything? It might actually push them away. So inviting to goodness could include good manners. Could be, for example, pushing evil. We have many sisters, many brothers working in committees to do with all the things that owns through the with those who are misguided. He doesn't give all the sins of those who are misguided, what they have guided them on. So, when you remember that Judgment Day, you will come, samahullah, inshallah, none of us, but someone would lose their misguidance through their actions, through the things they do. There's a lot of corruption or misguidance happening on platforms such as, and that is where our youth are engaged, such as Instagram, Facebook is a bit older for the younger generation, Snapchat. Platforms are always influencers who might move away and some of them, I'm talking about them amongst us, I'm not talking about nonsense, move away from what is good, and might cause those individuals who might follow an evil path or move away from it. So it's very important to know that your impact starts with your own sayings, your own words. And your own actions. And then you don't just think about situations where there's negativity. So you've got to forbid evil. You've got to say, no, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be in that situation. That is, I think, even the last resort that you should use. I think what you should do is to think in a proactive manner, how to engage proactively in bringing about a polemic. People want to do good, for people to realize the importance of working together on goodness and how it's going to affect them in themselves and their communities and wider society. So I think it's very important for us to to try to think of innovative ways, especially the youth, because and I always say the youth, because the youth have they always like to think outside the box. They always bring to our tables, especially those the ones us, we have been here for a while, so maybe we're just fixed in the way we think, but then they speak out and they bring something new to the table, and they need that we need to engage with them in bringing innovative ways of carrying out projects that would bring people together for a good outcome, for a good effect. And I think that is something that we all need to be thinking about, and it's one of our main projects within organizations. The youth, for example, they have such a big responsibility upon their shoulders of how to bring back the youth that are being attracted to many different ways. What projects will invite them to goodness? And because we are organizations, and I'm heading an organization that day and night thinks of projects that will bring people together and show them that we can have a positive impact, and not continuing in the path of defending ourselves or rejecting the accusations that we as a Muslim community are accused of day and night. And maybe there's a way where we could show a bright picture, and that would be inviting for people to goodness and to work on goodness. And mashallah, I think that, for example, the youth in under our organization, I am seeing some amazing projects that are coming and bringing those who are maybe far away to them. This is exactly al-amr bil-ma'ruf. This is exactly inviting people to join on goodness. This is exactly inviting people in coming together on a common goal that will serve their faith, bringing people closer to their faith. So if we were to explore this outside the context of an order to do good and an order to not do bad, then there's many areas that we could start working on. And I'm sure that while you're listening, many situations comes to mind. As I said, it is very important for us to, first of all, fine-tune our characters, our mannerism, the way we deal with others. And not everyone is suitable for that. That would harm the person in front of them. And I said sometimes to the point of leaving and never coming back. I was in Leeds Grand Mosque. I was a part of the management committee. And I remember because ladies wanted the musalla to be totally quiet. They didn't want any child to cry, and which is very strange in my view, because if our children don't grow in sajid, and I found there has to be a level of maintenance for the sound. But then what a mother that has children and she herself wants to do it every now and then, as long as it's not causing disruption, continuous disruption. But anyway, this woman came, she seemed like she was a new member, and mashallah, Leeds Mosque, if anyone knows it, known for their large community. There's many languages, I think over 30 languages spoken there. It's very mixed race, which is a beautiful example for a mosque, and that is the way, honestly, our mosque should be. So this woman walks in, and then suddenly her child cried while she was prayers, and suddenly, as soon as we did Salamu Alaikum, Assalamu Alaikum, this woman burst out, shouting and screaming at her. This new member burst out in tears, and she cried, and she carried her baby. She ran out. So I followed her, because the way it was done was awful, to be honest. If she was doing Amr bil Ma'ruf, she thought she was. The woman is, she's mashallah, a knowledgeable woman in terms of religion, but obviously she didn't know how to translate that into action. You shouldn't be doing this. You're harming people. You're harming the Musallis. After this woman, and this was the first time, it was a non-hijabi, and this was the first time her husband convinced her to come to the mosque, and that she will find a nice atmosphere in the mosque. This woman said, "I will never ever return to the mosque." I advised her and I said, listen, this is only a single person and it's not like that and we'll find you. You know, but I don't know what's happened to her. But imagine if she never walked into a mosque again. Imagine that. And this will satisfy that she has carried an act of Amr bil Ma'ruf. That is absolutely devastating. And we should learn that our manners is what makes people listen to us, shut us up, and they don't even want to listen. And mostly the youth, when they say, you have no right to speak to me like that, and you have no right to comment on me, it's because of a previous mindset that we are rigid in our amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi al munkar. We do it in an ordering manner that does not allow any kind of discussion or convincing, and that is off. So the tool that they use is just leave me alone. If you don't like it, just don't look at it. And at the end of the day, sometimes we have to do that, you know. So we try to assess the situation. But as I said, if you can do forbid or order, then present examples and present projects. I'm aware of the time and I want to leave time for the discussion. And I think the discussion, mostly the engagement happens. So I'm going to end shortly. I wasn't told to end, but I'm going to assume that inshallah it's only 20 minutes. So I want some engagement from the sisters. But it is very important for us to find projects where spoken about now, so and I like same to his you can only deliver the message. Maybe you are burdened by them not being convinced. That is not your duty. Your role is not to burden yourself if they are not convinced. Your role is to deliver. And this role is to keep delivering in the best of ways, in the most beautiful way. And when I discuss, it is to bring goodness to everyone, not only in an Islam way, in everything, in every aspect, to prevent evil from spreading evil, even. So that is an important area that we should not neglect. Talking to those who we feel they're not going to listen to us, but at least I'm doing my job. I'm discussing, putting my points of view across. I'm telling them my sisters, the Muslim community feels that what you're saying and what you're doing in attacking them is causing harm. So all of those things that you're doing are regarded or counted in Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. I will stop here because I'm aware of the time. So I will leave whoever wants to come in to maybe ask the sisters for any questions or discussions.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Raghad. That was so, I think that was just so practical and so applicable. I mean, I work very closely with the youth, and I think that is something that I've taken so much from that. So Jazakallah, and I'm sure everyone else who's been listening has as well. Really, Jazakallah khair for putting that perspective into Amr bil Ma'ruf, because often we don't think about it in that way. So really, Jazakallah. We do have a hand up. Let's have a look, inshallah. All right, Sister Amal is up. Okay, Amal, I've unmuted you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Jazakallah khair, sister, for that really, really great talk. I learned so much, and I really just love the way you made everything really practical, and it was a really, really unique way of looking at the topic. Like for myself, I could do a little bit of youth work in my local masjid as well. And you mentioned like you can try and do projects to encourage the girls to Islam rather than just telling them this is right, this is wrong, this is what you should do, and this is what you should do. I just wondered if you had any like examples of those type of projects that maybe I start up.
Okay. This is a very important question, especially that the youth differ in terms of them liking practice more than theory. And this is something we have to realize, because when you realize the specification of the characteristics of your audience, then you will be able to cater accordingly. And I think one of the most important work we can do is with youth, because the youth are faced with so many endless challenges, especially in the current time and the current atmosphere. That is why I applaud you and I think Sakina. I think Sakina. Samar, sorry, yes, Samar.
Okay.
Sakina and Samar, nice meanings. So anyway, so I applaud you all, because honestly, you're working in an area that will impact generations to come. These are the future mothers, and if you've got, so carry on the message. And when we talk about projects, the first seed I've noticed with so many, because I'm someone who, since I was 18, I was working with circles, young children's circles. And until this day, my daughter who's 14, I have a circle for them. And I've done it for all my daughters. So the most important thing, because I've noticed along my time, many youth are strong and then they leave. They take off their hijab, they leave faith totally, they go against their faith. And I started to notice that the problem is in the foundations of their belief, in the foundations of how they were brought to this goodness. And it is something to do with their creed, with their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you were to create a good bond that will enjoin them onto good, you've got to take care of the foundations of this good bond, which is their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that is the goodness that they're enjoining towards. So I think special care should be given, and according to the different ages, children below 8 is different than children above 11, and then teenagers. You've got to be very careful with who are you dealing with, and you can even ask for help. What do you think? What kind of syllabus would help them in that? And practical projects are immensely important in terms of, for example, engaging them to come on social projects. For example, I had a group of children who wanted to, they weren't really religious or anything, but they just felt like, because I brought them together, I told them we're going to do something practical. They were excited and they loved it when I took them to social projects such as soup kitchens. They loved it. They just felt they're doing something good. And if you grow in heart the feeling of let's do something good, then it continues. The satisfaction that they get after the project continue to feed on that. So if we were to talk about Ramadan projects and what could they have done, I mean, I'm in the youth, we're talking about 16 plus, that's a bit older. They came on creating their own journals, creating their own media. You've got children who worked on something of how did we deal with the extra time under the lockdown. And children from age 12 to 15, but beautiful ideas, beautiful. When you empower them, they come up with the best of projects. Have in your mind what kind of practical projects engaging into society as well, not take them away from society. The worst thing we could do is to separate the creator and surround them with a bubble that they don't belong anymore. It's how to be active. Spoken word, and I know many sisters who have brought this through spoken word. They engage in their minds and in their skills according to what they want. But I would say, if you were to say what kind of projects, talk to them. Tell them, what would you like to do? Because they will be enthusiastic about the things that they suggest. Take it from there. Take 1 or 2 projects and say, okay, how can we grow this? And if you need help, I mean, we could extend, if our experience will be of help to you, we could extend and we could provide you, inshallah, with suggestions and the things that we have done. Maybe it will be of benefit, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair for that. I hope that answers the question.
Now, let's have to Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa Nahy Anil. That's something that we should realize as well. Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa Nahy Anil Munkar needs knowledge. So you have to understand what people to do. So, for example, if you saw someone in their food, and knowledge of different schools, you to say what you're doing is wrong, you should do it. You be wrong. So don't advise on something that you are absolutely sure about. For example, drinking alcohol, everyone is certain that this is not allowed. So this is something we can all tackle. But you cannot tackle on something that you think you have knowledge of, because you might be the one who is in the wrong. Only order on something that you're confident that you could talk on. And I'm talking about the areas that have got different opinions that you see wrong and you don't apply in your life. So, for example, in terms of food you can eat, or the way that you pray, but you don't acknowledge the madhabs for the other madhab, they exist in Islam. So therefore, if you are not acknowledged in that particular area, don't speak on it. It's better not to. And when you're saying most of the people don't know their role, I think that stems from them not being close to their religion. Because I'm telling you, if I just recite now the many verses upon verses that no doubt a Muslim will come to the conclusion that that is my duty, it means that they have been away from their faith. And maybe in that sense, they need time to come to that actual fact. And what they need first is to activate faith. Because as I said, one of the ways that you will be able to be successful and to command goodness is to have faith. So faith has to be strengthened in them. And therefore, only the knowledgeable, only the people of faith are those who can. I can't be someone who's, la samahullah, committing, for example, adultery, and then coming and advising people on how important. It doesn't have an impact. It doesn't apply. And therefore, my faith and my conduct has to be one that fulfills the elements of faith, and I have to have knowledge. So therefore, whatever area if you know someone who can do a better job. So for example, I see someone doing something and I'm not so sure. Either you refer them to someone who knows better, and I'm telling you, for example, the problem of homosexuality, okay? This is an issue that is growing, and I'm not saying in wider society. I'm speaking about Muslim community. And unfortunately, there's movements who are